Welcome to 2023. Even on the first, I was still like, so are we really in a new year? I feel like 2022 went by so fast. I don't know if I'm the only one who actually feels that way, but let me know in the comment section. Anyway, we are in 2023 and God is so good. We made it, guys. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome back to my channel. First video of the year. And today I have a topic which I believe is quite important. But before we go into that, if you haven't yet watched the video that I did where I shared the word that I received for 2023, please go and watch that one first, because I believe that that word is super important. I believe that you are going to be blessed watching it, and you definitely need to also start the year right. Okay, when I was preparing to shoot today's video, I wanted to have like an elaborate plan to share with you guys with Bible verses and everything. And that is because I told myself this year I want to really go all out for you. I want to share as much as I can to help those of you who are willing to learn, to make the right choices when it comes to a life partner, and also to prepare right for marriage so that you can have the marriage that God has for you. But then again, I felt like, you know what, I think I'll just give you an assignment. Instead of just giving you everything, I will give you guidelines for some of the things and ask you to go and do some research and all of that. And the reason that I want to do that is because, you know, many times we are told things, we are told what to do, and we are given information, and I feel like it's becoming as though we are being spoon-fed, and that does not really help sometimes, because you have that bunch of information that you don't really understand, but there's something that self-study would do for you. And I'm saying this from personal experience. This is why one of the things that I preach and talk extensively about in one of my books, Understanding God's Will for My Life, is the fact that even if you listen to God's word in church being preached by your pastor and everything, it's still important that you have your own personal study of the word. It's important that you spend time with God. Like, nothing can replace that. So I'm going to be giving you some sort of assignment, some sort of things to do, which I believe is going to help you deepen your understanding when it comes to some of these things, so that you can mature, grow, and also be rooted in your conviction. This is very important. So today I want us to talk about, I don't even know how to frame the topic. Probably at the end of it all I will know how to, but I want us to talk about using a life partner. Okay, I want us to talk about the fact that some people say you can marry just anybody, provided there's understanding between the two of you, provided you understand each other, provided you love each other. You can marry just anybody. This video is also inspired by some conversations that I've had, and by some things that I've heard. I've had a conversation, and someone was saying, some of our elderly people got married, without necessarily talking about knowing the will of God for you in the area of marriage and everything, and they are still married. I mean, there are people who are still married, and I'm going to be shooting another video on this topic, like, getting married in the will of God and still having issues in your marriage and things like that. I will shoot another video on that topic. But so does it mean that you can marry just anybody, provided you understand each other, provided that you both decide to live together and all of that? You see, marriage works with principles. And the thing with principles is, once you apply them, you are going to get results. I'll give you an example. The principle of sowing and reaping. That principle works whether you're a Christian or you're not a Christian. If you sow, you are going to reap. If I plant something, it's going to germinate, provided I follow the principles that go with, planting that thing. I am going to see fruit. Do you understand? Give and it shall be given unto you is also a principle that is in line with sowing and reaping. So when people give, they get in return, they get blessed and all of that. But you see, marriage is one of the most controversial topics, in my opinion. There are a lot of people who give their opinions about marriage, but in order for us to understand marriage the way that we ought to understand it, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to go back to who made marriage, who instituted marriage. And I know that you already see where I am going. So yes, people can give opinions, but we have to stick to what the one who instituted marriage has to say about marriage. Yes, you can see things going on around you, but you have to stick to what the one who made marriage, instituted marriage, has to say about marriage. Now, yes, in as much as I know that marriage works with principles and understanding, I want to say that one of the core principles of marriage, one of the core principles of even choosing a life partner is understanding. And when I say understanding, I mean, choosing someone that you align with when it comes to your value system, when it comes to your belief system, when it comes to your vision, your purpose, and even your understanding of family and all of that to some extent. So one of the reasons I believe that people actually in this generation have a lot of failed marriages is because we kind of boycott that part. We kind of want to, we play smart. We are a generation that is prone to being led by their feelings. So I'm in love. I feel like this person is the best person in the world. Those feelings, like the in love feelings. A lot of people actually just take decisions based on that in love feeling without actually checking those other things. Without checking their value system. Do we align? Do we have alignment when it comes to our core values, when it comes to our beliefs, when it comes to our convictions and all of those things? People don't check. And honestly, I believe that this is one of the reasons that we have a lot of failed marriages. Because here's what happens. People get married, and then when they get into marriage, they now try to force change the other person. So people get married, ignore all of those things, and after they get married, they now realize that marriage does not actually work that way, and they try to force change the other person, and they get frustrated, and then they begin to say things like, I don't think we are in love anymore. I think what they really mean is, you know what, I think I made a mistake. This person is not who I wanted to marry. I'm trying to now change the person, and the person is resisting change. And that's actually very stressful. And that is actually very unfortunate. And it is one of the reasons that I do what I do on this channel. Share the knowledge that I share with you so that you can avoid some of these mistakes and save yourself a lot of stress. Because I believe that two cannot work together except they agree. And that is what the scriptures tell us, right? I want to encourage you to actually go and look up that verse, read it, and look at it within the context of marriage. Because marriage is a lifelong journey. You and that person are going to live together for the rest of your lives. And to be honest, if we check for alignment when it comes to our value system, when it comes to our belief system, when it comes to our purpose, when it comes to our vision, when it comes to business and other things in our lives, how much more marriage? How much more marriage? So, would choosing just anybody, saying, oh, marriage is just when you live together, you just understand each other and tolerate each other and all of that, is it possible to just choose someone on the basis of that understanding and make your marriage work? Well, I will leave you to answer that question, honestly. I just really I want us to think about these things. And this is why I said I would give you some assignments and all of that. When these basic principles of alignment, or this basic principle of alignment is ignored, it will lead to a lot of frictions in marriage. Also, I want to say that just because people who are still married, so I'm saying this because some people may say, oh, I know a Muslim and a Christian who got married and they are still married, or I know someone who did blah 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 and they are still married. All of these things that people see and they want to base on that to do their thing, right? I want you to understand that just because people are still married does not mean that they are happily married. Just because people are still married does not mean that they have a healthy and a functional marriage. So do not base on what you don't understand to make a decision. It's just like when it comes to career guidance. You know, I have a career guidance book as well. So if you are struggling with your career choices, get this book. Okay, where do I go from here? But that was just by the way. When I talk to people about career, making career choices, I tell them, don't make a choice based on what you think you know. What you think you know is maybe different from the reality. So some people may say, oh, I think this job pays well. That is what you think. But if you haven't spoken to someone who is into it, or if you haven't actually done your due diligence, you may be taking a decision based on an assumption. And I can go on and on and on. There are some people who may say, I want to choose this career because I think it is flexible. That is what you think. But until you do your due diligence and actually talk to people who are in need, you may not actually understand that what you think you see is not what the reality is. So it's the same with marriage. Just because you see two people who are still married does not mean that they have a healthy marriage. And one of the things that I'm super, super, super passionate about is helping people build healthy marriages. I don't want people to just be married. I want people to be happy married. I want people to have functional marriages. So I want you to make informed decisions based on the truth, not on what you think is the truth. Also, please understand, please understand that God's purpose for marriage is bigger than just two people staying together. God's purpose for marriage is bigger than just two people living together. God's purpose for marriage is bigger than just two people going on date nights and stuff like that. God's purpose for marriage is also generational. And that is when you look at the marriage institution, when God puts man and woman together, one of the things he told them is that they should multiply, that they should be fruitful and multiply. So here we are talking about giving birth, we are talking about children, right? And you have to understand that your marriage will affect your children. Your marriage will affect the children that you are going to raise. And we are not just talking about, oh yes, you are going to give birth and we'll raise the children. No, I'm talking about even how you do marriage. I'm talking about your relationship with your spouse and so on and so forth. All of those things are going to affect your children. And because God is a God of family and a God of generations, God doesn't just think about now. He's thinking about the generation. As a matter of fact, I believe that this is one of the reasons that he told the children of Israel who they should marry. He gave them instructions on who they should marry. Listen, they could, when I was in school, my first degree, I had a lecturer who would say things like, on peut tout dire. Like, I studied translation, right? And translating from English to French. And one of the questions I would often ask is, madam, can we say this? Est-ce qu'on peut dire ceci? And she would tell us, on peut tout dire, hein? But, and then she would add, so yes, you can, and the Bible even says that, tout m'est permis. Listen, you can do whatever, but just because you can does not mean you should do it. Do you understand? Just because you can does not mean you should do it. So yes, you have the freedom of choice. You can choose to marry just anybody, but just because you can does not mean you should. As children of God, we have guiding principles that are for our own good, actually. So I believe that one of the reasons that God told the children of Israel, listen, you can marry from here, you can marry from here, and all of that, is because he was thinking not just about the two people who are going to come together, but what the repercussion of their union was going to have on the children they were going to birth, and also on the people around them. So you have to understand that your marriage is not just going to be about you. When you think of getting married, you have to think about the fact that that man you want to choose to be your life partner is also going to be the father of your children. And you also have to understand, looking at the kind of parenting that you want to give your children. And I've heard things like that as well. Like, I want my children to do this and my husband is saying you should go this way. That's why I'm telling you that your marriage is going to affect your kids, it's going to affect your children. So you need to be very careful when it comes to who you're going to choose. For people who are saying, oh, you can marry a Muslim, if he's okay with me going to church, I'll still go to church, blah, blah, blah. Have you thought about your children? When your children come, how are you going to raise them? And I'm telling you, two cannot work together except they agree. Forget that thing. That thing is that thing that people say, oh, it's just a matter of blah, 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 blah. Forget it, my dear. Forget it. It's going to be a bone of contention in your home. It's going to be a bone of contention in your marriage. And please, we don't want that. You want to raise healthy families. We want to have healthy marriages. So your marriage is not just going to be about you. It's going to be bigger than you. It's going to affect your children. It's going to affect people around you as well. And you have to think generational. You have to think generational. One of the things that I tell people is that when I do my work, when I work with people, when we talk about their marriage, I do sessions with them. We are thinking about like breaking generational dysfunctions. We are thinking about, if I do my marriage well, I'm also showing my children how to do marriage. I'm teaching them how to do marriage as well. So yeah, I also believe that this is why Abraham told his servant where to go and get a wife for his son Isaac, because he understood that this thing wasn't just about, it wasn't just going to be about Isaac. It was going to be about continuing something. It was going to be about the impact that Isaac was going to have, and the fact that his marriage could derail him. Listen, sisters, you have to understand that marriage is actually a big deal. Another thing is, you have a vision, you have a purpose. Believe it or not, your marriage is going to affect your vision. When I was single, looking forward to getting married, I wasn't just thinking about the big day as in the wedding. I was thinking about the day-to-day things. I was thinking about the discussions I'll have with my husband, the belief system of my husband. Listen, in my line of work, I have been to places, met people. I have met, some guys who asked me, when we engage in conversations, so does your husband allow you to do what you do? I'm like, yeah. I don't even want to go into details, but there are men who legit believe that, who legit, I remember one person who told me he wouldn't have allowed his wife, blah blah blah. I won't go into why he actually said that, because it wasn't even like a solid thing. But as funny as it is, there are people who think that way. And so for me, it was important for me to marry, and it was important for me to allow God to lead me, because I knew that there was a lot at stake. And I also understood that if my marriage was not working, it was going to make it super difficult for me to function in the other areas of my life as well. And again, as I said, your marriage working or not is not just dependent on the person that you choose, but the person that you choose also plays a major role. Because listen, I would rather marry someone who already has the fear of God, who already understands marriage the way that God wants us to understand marriage, who is willing to work on himself, who understands God's purpose for my life and things like that, than marry someone that I will now try to convince, try to change, it's a whole lot of work. You understand what I mean? So your vision, remember I spoke about alignment. When you're a person of purpose, let other people talk about the fact that you can marry anybody. But a person of purpose, a woman of purpose, knows that she can't marry just anybody. Because if you marry the wrong person, if you don't marry right, that can actually affect your ability to do what it is that God has called you to do. And don't forget that there's a lot of communication that goes on as well in marriage. So if already there's no alignment when it comes to your vision, trust me, you are not going to function. You're not going to be able to function. You're not going to be able to function. That reminds me, I once watched a YouTube video where Damilola Mike Bamiloye was sharing his story around this same topic. Okay, he was talking about how before he married the woman that he's married to right now, who I love, by the way, Manuela, he was talking about the fact that there was this other sister, there was this other lady in the picture. But one of the big challenges that they had was the fact that there was no alignment when it came to their purpose. There was no alignment, so he knew that it was going to be a drama minister, that he was going to, serve the Lord in that capacity. And I believe that it was going to be full-time, something like that. And this woman was a career woman, and she did not sort of agree, because she started asking questions, which of course are legitimate. But you see, there is a way that the person who understands your purpose would see things, understand things, and have discussions with you, which is different from the way a person who doesn't would actually do. So if I remember well, she was asking questions like, so how are you going to take care of the family? Like, and the lady was earning, she was working in a very good company. And yeah, so there were those frictions about, it's like the lady was kind of trying to get him to change his vision, or kind of try to get him to change his purpose, do something else, because she was looking at how they were going to live, and probably also thinking about, how some ladies think, like, I want my man to maybe work in a certain place, so that when people ask, I would say, oh, this is what he does. I don't want to be asked, oh, what does your husband do? And by the way, I've been asked this question, when I go for my different assignments. Sometimes I get asked, what does your husband do? So she was probably thinking, when they ask me, what does my husband do? I want to be able to say things like, he works here, he does this. I don't want to say, oh, he's a drama minister. Do you understand? So this question of vision, purpose, alignment is super important. Think about it. Getting married to somebody who does not understand your vision, getting married to somebody who does not understand your purpose, getting married to somebody with who you have no alignment when it comes to vision and purpose, which is one of the things that I've been preaching since. If you have read my book, Understanding God's Will for My Life, you know that one of the things I talk about there is the fact that purpose actually is a big thing. And I actually believe that marriage is about purpose. First of all, it's not about just we love each other. It's first of all about purpose. Anyway, that I will leave it here. If you haven't read that book, you definitely want to get your hands on a copy. You can read it this month. This, for me, is one of the reasons that you can't just marry anybody, because I believe that these things matter. So that's why there's talk and all of that before you get married. But also I believe that is why you should allow the Lord to really lead you when it comes to choosing a life partner. Also, you have a certain understanding of marriage and family life, and that's probably going to be my last point for today's video. I don't know how many minutes it is now, but I don't want it to be so lengthy. I know that I had a certain understanding of marriage. When I say something like marriage is about purpose, I know not many people believe that. And this is one of the things that I wrote. And it should tell you that it's one of my core beliefs, that marriage is about purpose. And I also have an understanding of family life. So for me, getting someone who understood things that way, maybe not exactly as, I understand it, but somebody who had alignment when it comes to marriage, purpose, and building a godly family and all of that, when it comes to having someone who has that same understanding, it was very important for me. So what is your understanding of marriage? How do you understand marriage? What is marriage for you? And I want you to really think about this, okay? What is marriage for you? Okay? What is marriage all about? And why do you want to get married? Which is going to be another video, by the way. Why do you want to get married? And because if you understand these things, you would know that you can't just marry anybody. And I believe that the reason that people think that they can marry just anybody is because they don't understand marriage. They don't understand the purpose of marriage, and don't understand the gravity of marriage. So I hope that with these few points of mine, I have been able to make you think a little bit about, can I marry just anybody? Whether it's a Muslim, or maybe you would say, I appreciate you're going too far, I can't marry a Muslim, but can I marry just anybody provided we just love each other? In today's video, I believe that one of the things that I wanted us to understand is that your marriage is not just about you, and deciding to marry just anybody thinking we'll just live together is not enough, because your marriage should serve a purpose, and God's plan for marriage is bigger than just the two of you living together. So you want to think about the big picture, and you want to think about the fact that when you get married, you are actually taking up an assignment. All right, you are going to be taking up an assignment, and you don't want to make marriage more difficult than it is already, because marriage is actually work. All right. So your assignment for today is for you to think about, can two work together except they agree within the context of marriage, and also look up Bible verses where God told the children of Israel who they should marry, and do some study on why God was particular about telling them who they should marry and all of that. Why would God be interested in who you marry? And at the end of the day, I want you to also write down your understanding of marriage. How do you understand marriage? That'll be all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year once again. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe today. This year is going to be back to back, God helping me. I really have a lot to share with you, and I want you to contribute to this good work by subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with your friends, so that you can get to hear what you hear as well. I want us to have very beautiful homes that will glorify God, and very happy homes that you enjoy as well. Believe you me, who you marry matters. Yes, it's not the only thing that would make your marriage work, but it's also very important. In fact, it's, for me, one of the biggest part of whether or not you're going to have a healthy and functional marriage. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you choose the right person first of all, before we'll now talk about putting in the work. Because when you don't choose right, in itself can frustrate you. Because I'm not talking about marrying a perfect person, but I'm talking about things like alignments and all the things that I've already spoken about. Like, you're a Christian, you want to go and marry outside your Christian faith. Sis, for what? All right, so thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone. Bye for now.